Folks, it's our 1-year anniversary. The Handyman Pros are going to do a recap on the year in handyman services and on the podcast. We're going to talk a little bit about our top jobs, our top tools, and the lessons we've learned through the year. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled Our 1-year anniversary. And of course, to help me explain, I have my ever cheerful co-host and old buddy John. John, we're changing the format. I'm not asking you what you're doing this week. I'm just going to tell you this is a special week. It's been our 1-year anniversary. So we're going to talk about our goal, which is time, money, and aggravation, and why we started, and how our goal is to educate and all that good groovy stuff. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. Greetings again. I'm very excited. You know, this has been 1 year since we launched this podcast, and I think that we've shared a lot of good information out there. We've had a lot of good comments coming back, a lot of good interaction with folks out there. We've had the interviews.
Which we're going to do more of, by the way.
And all kinds of good information from a variety of sources. So, I'm very excited about it. We're going to continue to do that. Matter of fact, we're probably going to, up some of that. We've talked about a lot of different subjects on this podcast. That everything that we can do for the DIYer out there, the first time homeowner, and
other
save time, money,
well.
And aggravation.
Yeah, and other handyman as well. I want to send a personal thank you out to you, John, because you were actually the person that I had this idea a long time ago. I'm like, I want to do a podcast. And folks, if you don't know it, I have had a nominal amount of radio broadcasting experience in the past. My big thing was I always thought this was going to be a huge amount of effort, which it is a large amount of effort on our part. But John basically got me off my backside. He got me off my derriere, and we actually decided to put this show together. And I want to send my thank yous out to you, my partner in crime here, for getting me off my butt and getting us doing this podcast, because it's been a fantastic year. We have learned just a ton about what people know and don't know, and I think that one of our things when we talk about it was really our goal to help educate people, because I think when we've been out doing handyman services, John, and I hope you agree with this, we've kind of found out that people don't know that much about how their homes work. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's right, and it's nice to be able to bring some of that knowledge base out to those folks to help them out to understand all that kind of stuff, so they can fix their homes up themselves.
Well, either fix their homes up themselves, or just have an understanding of how things work, and if they want to take on a project, they can. If they don't, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that, but it just helps to understand, right? I mean, it helps to understand, like, why do you change an HVAC filter? Well, there's actually reasons, and we've discussed that in a show, and so we throw that one out there. What is this fungus stuff that I have growing on the corners of my windowsills, right? So, one of the things, we sort of wanted to talk about our top jobs for the year, and so that's why I always use the infamous wood rot, right, John? So probably my number one job all year long. Now, this is on the handyman side. Number one job here in outside of Atlanta, Georgia, has been wood rot repair, right? I mean, I don't know how much I've done. I'm so over counting it. It's beyond me. But
yeah, I mean, that's really how a lot of this stuff started. A lot of this stuff started out with doing a lot of wood rot damage. I mean, it's not very hard to find. And most homeowners, are gonna, eventually will find it. Part of the goal here was to help them find it quicker before it got worse. But we do, that's a lot of it down here, no doubt.
Well, one of the things we found is that it's completely. I don't want to say it's completely preventable. It's not that it's preventable, but what's preventable are the what do you want to call them, John? The deeper problems, meaning when you let it
Yeah.
go too long, it gets down into your
Yeah,
framework
right.
down.
And we just did a show on that, letting things go. You don't want to do that, but sometimes it's inevitable. It does happen, and that's part of this last year of what we've been doing is a lot of wood repair,
Yeah. And then the underlying cause of most wood rot is water damage. And we found over the year that water is very, very destructive to your home, right? I mean, would you agree with that? Yeah, that water.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
I personally think it's probably the single biggest threat to your home is water. Of all the things, it's the one that's the most insidious in my mind because it takes a long time to do the damage, and most of the time it's really avoidable. In most cases, it's very, very avoidable, except when your pipes burst in the middle of winter. But anyway, that's avoidable to a degree. So anyway. What other jobs have we had, John?
Well, I mean, so as we look back, from the year when we really started this podcast and we started to, kind of bring forth some of the things that we're seeing that we wanted to share with people. We did a flooring project. I hadn't done a flooring project in I don't know how long, but it kind of brought me back to. As we did that, just the new products, I think, over the last year of the kind of new products that have come to market actually the last couple of years. But, we put down some of that vinyl plank, that luxury vinyl plank, which was great. That it is, if you're thinking about some new flooring, folks, you need to take a look at this stuff. And that was one of the top jobs, at least in my mind, that I really got a lot of satisfaction. I mean, so when we're looking at these top jobs, it was kind of when I was thinking about it was the fun factor. Now being
I
on,
thought we
being on
didn't
your
do
knees
flooring,
and
John.
crawling around on the floor at this age wasn't all that much fun, but it was a challenge. Okay, it was a bit of a challenge. Now, would I want to do it every day? No, sir, I would not want to do that every day.
Well, that's where age plays, right? Age plays on that one. Yeah.
But I think from the standpoint of kind of a highlight of just being able to gain some knowledge from that. And just do it. It was a good job. It was fantastic. It was a good job because it really made a huge difference when we got done. A major difference.
Yeah, and I know I went into that job with a little preconceived notion on it myself, and that was because the LVT or LVP, if you want to call it, whatever you call it, luxury vinyl tile, luxury vinyl plank, is a click lock product. The last click lock product I did was an engineered hardwood. And I have to say that when I installed that engineer hardwood, I was like, this is just awful. I mean, it was a relatively now I probably didn't use the greatest grade of it, and we have found in our learning process there's different grades of LVP, LVT, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it LVT. There's different grades of that, and there's different grades. I'm sure there's different grades of click lock, but I just did not like doing the click lock wood. It just really, I felt, but when I got done with it, I'm like, this really isn't worth the effort to put it in my opinion. Again, I didn't use a really good high quality one, I'm sure, but this LVT stuff, when you get, if you just look at how it clicks together and how it comes together, when we did it, it really came together really well. And at the end of the day, it looks like $1,000,000. I mean, especially when you combine some of the other advantages that it has great scratch resistance and it's waterproof, or at least the stuff we used is waterproof.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, those kinds of things when you add them in and that insulation. And then, and like you said, John, at the end of the day, I mean, it made a huge difference.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of put it in in my top of the jobs that we've done, just from the satisfaction of how it changed that house, because a lot of things that we do we do a lot of little stuff. We'll do some light changes, we'll do some fans, switches, the wood rot we just talked about, things like that, and yes, you get rid of some ugliness that's here or there, but we don't really do a lot of major things like the flooring thing. That's why I put it on the top, because it was kind of on the list, and I think, from that part, I'll tell you the other job that we did, and this happened at the end of last year, was, redoing that shed.
Yeah, that was a good one. It really was a good one. It taught us a ton about just like the cost of a shed. You taught us a lot about sheds and process, I guess, right?
Exactly. I think that, you bring up a very good point there, and that is it didn't teach us how to build a shed. We knew that. We knew how to fix it and everything. That wasn't the issue. Really, what we learned from that was the cost. And I think you hit it right on the head.
Right.
And that kind of got us into talking with the folks from a prefab shed place, that they sell their sheds at a big box store. And after you look at, now with this shed that we rebuilt, that was a really big shed.
I was going to say it was almost a barn.
That was almost a barn.
Almost,
that was a major structure. Okay. But you're right. It taught us about the cost of that and everything. And then when you compare it to the prefab stuff, and this is why I want to bring it up in the top jobs, because I think that's something my takeaway from that job was, if I'm going to put a shed in my yard, I'm going to buy one already built, pre-made one.
Yeah, pre-made one. And then it also got into, so if you'll remember, that shed had some shelves and it had some storage, and I think she had some benches and stuff in there. And it got us into that kind of that whole planning. It's where I said about the process side of it. How many selections do you have? Well, that's the part for me that's like, man, there's a million selections. Like how many, how do you want it laid out? What are you doing? And so form and function got into it, but that along with the cost on it and the whole, kind of thing that I mean, really one of my takeaways was, yes, if I'm going to build a shed, especially a smaller shed, I'm not building it. I'm just buying it. It's
right, because because there's enough to do inside of it. So
Correct.
you can buy the shed a lot cheaper than you can build it. It's actually a very solid structure because it's a prefab. It's built in a manufacturing plant, and they come and they deliver it and they do the soil, they do everything, and then they place it. And, then it's up to you to build out the inside of it if you'd like. So I know a lot of people out there with, the way business is starting to work now and staying home in the home office. And we had a show on that and everything. But, we're hearing from these people that a lot of people are buying these sheds for another office.
For an office, yeah, an on-site office, if you want to call it.
An on-site, yeah. So they're putting in, conditioned air. They're doing all kinds of stuff to it, which is, very interesting. So you can trick this thing out, on the inside any way that you'd like.
Yeah.
So it's really a good way to go.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting learning process just all the way around, and it's basically building homes, or not homes, but it's building structures on a much smaller basis. But gosh, before you start building a house, build a shed first and just make sure, just from the planning standpoint, it was worthwhile. So it was fantastic for us. I know I learned a ton from that job, and it snowballed, right? So you and I are both about continuous learning. And so we are forever, every job we do, we want to learn something from if we can. I'm not having much luck learning anything from wood rot repair. Although,
no, I think we're over that.
Pretty much.
And if we're not, then
please, if you know something, if you know something about wood rot that we don't know, please tell us. Please send us a note and let us know. I mean, we've even found some new old products, right, that work really well. So we'll get into that on some future tip. But there's some. We're going to get into a little bit of products at some point. We're going to talk about some products. But we found an old product that's been around, I don't know, forever, that really works well on wood rot repair. So we found that again. We got reintroduced to that, and that was kind of interesting. We've done that. So
I think, Larry, I'll just say this. I think the last thing I'd want to say about the top jobs, and we'll move on here, is that hey, the other part of that we do is this podcast. Yeah,
doing the podcast has been. It's really been. How do you say it, John? It gives you a different perspective on things. Would you say? Would you agree with that?
It's kind of interesting because of the interaction that we've had with the people out there, and the questions that we get, and the community that we kind of revolve around in now. It's different than the homeowner stuff, right? But it's all kind of the same. In other words, we do the work, but we also talk to people who want to learn how to do the work, right, or have questions of how the work is done and the proper way to do that work.
Yeah, and the principles are all the same. So it
Yeah,
doesn't matter whether you're the homeowner or you're a DIY guy or you're
that's right.
or you're an actual contractor. The principles are all the same. So it's been and it's like for me, it gives me doing the podcast gives me a very different perspective on things because I look at something, and particularly it's my interaction with my customers when I'm doing a job that I find out like what they know and what they don't know. Meaning and not in a negative way. It's not negative. It's just. And we've discussed this, John.
You can't know everything.
Well, yeah, and you and I have been doing this stuff for we have more than 100 years combined experience. Would you agree with that? Pretty close. If we don't have 100 years combined, I know.
Speak for yourself. That's old enough, Larry. Thank you.
Well,
but no, and that's true. We've got a lot of experience out there. We've got a lot of people that we draw upon that have a lot of experience, and it's great to start to collect all that knowledge and be able to share that out
and share it out and help educate. Right? It's back to that whole teaching people what we know in a way that's hopefully fun. We hope you enjoy these shows. By the way,
and I'll say that this podcast is part of the work because it takes time to do this.
Yeah, it does,
and we're happy to do it. But that's also part of our lives, to do this stuff. So it's all good.
Yeah, and it's actually a beautiful segue into the second part. So we already discussed a little bit about some of the things, which we found some new products and things. As far as construction's got some new products, and if you haven't been doing construction in a while or you're new to it, there's a lot of new technology out there that's worked well. But there's also a lot of very cool new tools that have become extremely cost effective, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's it's a great way to put it. I think there's been a revolution, or not a revolution. It's probably more of an evolution of tools out there. Yeah. And I think you're right. You just said it. They've become very cost effective, and there's some reasons for that. We'll talk about that in a second, but you're right. You're right. And, I think when I was putting this part of it together today, I thought about the things that really, a couple of these tools have really proven themselves out to make a very professional outcome of work.
Right. Yep.
And so, we'll talk about that here.
Without breaking the bank, meaning
without breaking the bank. And this is what's incredible. At one point, some of these tools were, even back in the day, they were expensive.
Like, whoa. Expensive.
And it is incredible how some of this stuff now, sure, you can always buy top of the line, Milwaukee stuff and all the big brands out there, and yet it's still going to cost you a lot of money, and they're great tools. But for what we do, the tools that we use to just work fantastic.
Yeah.
And they weren't that expensive comparatively.
Right? So a couple of things. One is battery operated tools. We're going to do a show on batteries coming up in the future. I'm teasing people, but so John and I both, we've flown remote control aircraft, and we've been doing electric battery powered stuff for how long, John? Like 15 years? 10, 15 years?
Yeah. Yep.
So we ended up, I know in my case anyway, because I do this with everything, I did a deep dive into battery technology. And it's really a funny story that one of our friends, a young man named Hipshot, worked for a battery company. And he was talking to some of his R&D people, and they're talking batteries. And he's talking RC batteries, and they're talking other types of batteries. And they're like, as much as a PhD does about battery technology. Yeah. And he's like, how do you know that? And he went on to tell him it's because of the RC stuff. And consequently, we've learned a tremendous amount about batteries. So we're going to talk about battery technology. But battery technology from the tool side, from what we do every day, has changed the way we do business. It's amazing, isn't it?
Incredible.
So that's a great overview, is the cordless stuff that's available today wasn't even available 10 years ago. Yeah, maybe it was. No, it wasn't available 10 years. Definitely wasn't available 15 years ago.
Not like it is now. They were kind of toys back then, didn't have the power. Now it's incredible.
Yeah.
Now they rival corded tools.
Corded tools, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk some specifics, John. Let's talk. Let's talk.
The first one, I got to tell you, this laser level, incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And about $30 and up, right? I mean, you're talking about a $30
$30 and up. I mean, these self leveling laser levels, you just put them out there and they level themselves, and boy, they'll shoot a line up and cross. I mean, it is just incredible what you can do with these things. At one time, if you wanted something like this, a laser tool that would circle the room, let's say if you were going to do a suspended ceiling,
right, and
you wanted a level line across the whole, perimeter of the ceiling, those old lasers were really, really expensive.
So, are we talking thousands? Is that what we're talking
about? I don't
about?
know if they were that much. They were hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Many hundreds of dollars. Yes.
They were the ones that would rotate around, and you'd stick them up, and they'd shoot a line across the top, so that otherwise you're kind of just using a big long level to go across, which certainly will work.
Oh, it works.
But using something like this really takes the guesswork out of it. You're much more confident. The finish on it is just so it's fantastic, and they're just like you said. They're $30 to you can buy decent ones from $30 to $120, somewhere around there, or higher than that. But it depends on what you want. But I bought one that just boy, I'll tell you, it's tough. Once you have it, it's to live without it.
It's tough to live without it. I'll tell you that much. I mean, I'm going to tell you a story from yesterday. Yesterday, I was actually hanging pictures, right? So this was a how many pictures did I hang? 1, 2. I hung about 10 pictures, and it was a big picture in the middle with a circle around it of smaller pictures. So obviously, you want everything level, right? You want it spaced evenly, and I put the laser level up, and the beauty of it is I put the line across the top, and then all I'm doing is figuring out left and right nail hole positions, which then I actually did with the laser again, because I took the vertical axis and put it down. So I had the nail holes all in exactly the same line. That baby came out perfect, John.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and save you time and effort, and because how your eye is, if you're off by a little bit, you can tell. Yeah, you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell. Beautiful thing. Beautiful tools.
Yeah.
We also, I think we did a quick tip on a laser measuring device too, and same deal. What a difference.
And that was
right?
and that's another one. So, installing crown molding, measuring rooms. A tape line is just kind of a real mess. If you're just one person, you have to really stretch it out sometimes.
Yep.
This thing was what, like $30, $40?
Yeah,
I don't know.
In that range. Right.
And the thing is, the thing will go about 100 feet, and the accuracy of it is down to less than a 1/16 of an inch.
1/16 of an inch.
So, I mean, it is just fantastic, and I use that thing a lot.
All the time.
Yep.
So on to our next other favorite tool.
Wow. Yeah. So you're talking about the blower?
The shop blower, yes.
That little thing, that was your tool of the year back in 2019. That thing was the tool of the year again. This thing is a really powerful, it's a cordless little blower. And I will tell you, folks, this thing is amazing. Great piece of equipment. I highly recommend getting it for all kinds of reasons.
We've talked about it, but it's all the things you don't think of where you can use it because it's electric. You can use it in places you never thought of, and it's small, so it fits in places you never thought you could get a blower into, right?
And really powerful.
And that's really powerful.
And it really that's why it made my list for last year's, all the work I did last year, because it is my go-to tool at the end when I'm cleaning up. When I'm doing the job, I mean, it is right there. So, I wanted to put that, I wanted to put that one out there.
And I'm going to tell a John story. So John calls me one day. He goes, you're not going to believe it. I go, what's this? This was in the fall of last year. He goes, you're not going to believe it. I said, what's that? He goes, I'm out blowing my deck off with the blower. And I'm like, really? Is it working? Is it working? He's going, oh, it's great. He says, the best part? And I go, what's that? He goes, I just plug the battery in and the thing starts. So folks, think about that one for a minute, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got, it's not going to be a big backpack steel blower, right? But it is a tremendous. I mean, it's really powerful, and it's electric, so I don't have to smell like
You don't have
two-cycle
to. You don't.
gas and
You don't have to
oil
go
and
to our
everything
show
else,
on
and
getting
it
the gas
starts up.
smell off your shoes, right?
And I can't believe I've gone through the whole year now using that thing on the deck, and
Yeah.
it's just been incredible. That is right up there on on the Mount Rushmore of tools.
So another quick aside. So the other day, my lovely bride named Stacy says to me, she goes, I really want one of those blowers. Can you buy me one of those blowers? So I got her a blower. She wants one for the house just so she can have it because she can carry it around, because it's so light. She can carry it around and blow stuff off too. So we've actually we've got two of them.
I'll tell you the other, I hear that about the little vacuum, but we won't talk about that now. But there's little tools like this, folks, that really make life a lot easier. And, I just feel a whole lot better, when I'm packing stuff up. And even if I'm home and I'm working, is to keep everything clean, all my tools so that all the dust and everything. And this thing only takes a second and you're done. You blow off everything and you're done. And I know, Larry, you were going to talk about, what's the next tool on the list?
Yeah, the next tool is just the oscillating trim saw. They call them multi-saws. And it's just, man, I was doing some work the other day, and you want to do fine precision work. You want to cut drywall. You want to take grout out of tiles. This is a multi-purpose tool, but I used it for trim the other day, and it's just like, you lay it in there, and it's perfect. Because the kerf is the thickness of the saw blade. It's so thin that you slide it in, and it's just like, man, it's just great.
Yeah.
And you got so many uses out of it. So that thing
is a dream, man. Cutting through nails, everything.
Everything.
That's another
With the right
that's
blade.
Another tool that I could not live without this past year, and it has made such a huge difference in the professional look.
Yes. 100%.
And talk about reduction of aggravation. Oh my goodness, this thing will go through. You'll find places where you can use this and cut things apart where you couldn't even fathom how to get things apart before.
Yeah.
So that's the other one. So, I think the other category that I wanted to approach here, kind of things that we had come across that might be, everybody should be looking out for.
Yes.
And this is just a little bit of something I want to bring out here that I think both of us have taken with us now over this past year, and it comes to light is what's
a combination of dangerous and expensive.
Dangerous, right? And what's potentially extremely
really
costly.
Expensive, yeah.
So the first thing I want to say is I would never have believed how many decks that I have been on that have been dangerous, okay, in nice homes. And I've been on decks in homes that were only 7 years old and had painted decks, and you could fall through those decks. The boards had already rotted away.
And railings.
And the railings on these decks is the number one thing. And so, folks, I hope if there's anything else you're going to take away from this is that, if you go to some people's home, first of all, your home, take a look at your deck. Okay.
Yep.
But if you go to other people's homes and they have a party on the deck and things like that, do yourself a favor and just look at the railing, because I'm telling you that I've been in places that if I leaned up against that railing, I could go over that. I could go through that railing.
Yeah.
It's that
bad. Yeah. So that all of that stuff, just pay attention to it. One of the other big ones that we come on all the time, and I don't have any, well, I mean, I do have some real examples, but is electrical things and the fire hazards that they cause. So we get up into attics every once in a while, and you'll find wires that aren't in junction boxes, or they don't even have wire nuts on them. And you're like, whoa, like, some are taped up with electrical tape. I'm like, no.
That's right.
Be aware. Right. Be aware, because this is a real fire hazard. This is potentially your life. I mean, it's your life or your home, which is, we said, dangerously and potentially costly. Right. So definitely be aware of any electrical. Don't screw with the electrical side, because it's got multiple facets of ways it can really hurt you. Right. It can electrocute you. It can start a fire. It can cause all kinds of problems. So just be aware. Right. We're trying to. We've learned this from being out there in the field, folks, and this is what we're finding. We don't make this stuff up. Well, sometimes we do, but mostly that's just our banter that we make up. But yeah, when it comes to electrical, don't play around with it. I mean, it's just I found wires that are ready to break because somebody hasn't attached a box correctly to the wall, and the thing's moving back and forth. And next thing you know, it snaps. Well, that becomes a fire hazard at that point, right, John?
That's right.
It's all that kind of stuff.
The other thing that I found, okay, and it's kind of a little bit of an Inspector Clouseau on this, is that I have noticed in several cases now that when I look at electrical work, okay, and I see really bad electrical work, and you say, well, it's right here on this switch. Okay, and you chase it down a little bit, and it's on the next switch. It's on that. It's on, so whoever was in there, really did a bad job, and and I've had to redo a lot of electrical work. And I'll tell you, Larry, I know that the one house that we did that one time, and I went up into the ceiling, and there was a bunch of wires that were nothing but taped together, not in a junction box, that were just hanging there outside of the junction box. And that was like, I couldn't believe it. Yeah. I mean, it was so bad. All it took, folks, was that tape to kind of unravel and those things to pop apart. If somebody had a party upstairs and they're dancing around on the stairs and things
even
are moving.
Just regular moving,
and that vibration could just release those wires. And next thing you know, they are touching everything. So, you really, really have to be careful. So, once again, it's kind of some of the lessons that, that I'm bringing here that I've seen in the last couple of years. Yeah. So when you do look at your electrical stuff, really pay attention. So
that's that one. So I want to talk about one that we found to be very costly. This has to do with water, mostly it's water damage, right? But that's just your plumbing, but it has to do with the pressure relief valve, right? And most people don't even really know what a pressure relief valve is. But I don't know if we did a show on it, but we'll just go over it real quick. As your water comes into your house, it can come in at various different pressures, and it can be anywhere from 80 to more than 200 pounds per square inch. And all of the stuff in your house runs today it runs on about 60 psi. So they put a valve in there. It's called a pressure relief valve.
Yeah,
PRV,
pressure regulator valve.
Pressure regulator valve. Yeah, it goes by multiple names. But, and it takes the water from whatever the street value is down to around 60. Well, I went into a house one time. This was in the basement, and I heard when I turned their faucets on, it sounded like a jet. And I was like, well, immediate indication that there's too much pressure, right? And so I look at it, and I have a tester, and it's not that I'm telling you to go get a tester, but I put it on, and they're at 120 psi. Well, as I look at their sink, that sink that I did the test on, I look at the supply lines, and the supply lines were rated at 100 psi. So we're automatically 20 psi higher, aka those lines could have broken at any minute. And I think I told the story of I had a customer who had a 1/4-inch Keurig, a line going into his Keurig machine in the back, a 1/4 inch. And of course, it broke when he went on vacation and he came home to 2 inches of water in his house. Very, very, very costly repairs when you let water run into your house, because it's going to happen when you're not there. Yep. Or it's going to it rarely happens when you're there. And then you've got, an inch worth of water on it. And it destroys. What does water destroy when that happens, John? Pretty much anything it gets a hold of, anything it touches. It'll cause electrical problems. It'll ruin your drywall, your ceilings, your paint, your flooring. My customer's house, I mean, I hate to say it happened on the second floor, and all new flooring. He's lucky he didn't have new cabinets. He's lucky he didn't need new kitchen cabinets. He's really lucky there.
That's
doors are out of it warped the doors. It did all kinds of. I mean, it's going to be. It's going to be tens and tens of thousands.
That's a conversation you're going to have with the insurance company right there.
Yeah, and it's all being paid for by his insurance company, but his aggravation factor is he's 3+ months worth of repairs that he's living in a construction zone for 3+ months. So that's the kind of thing that you can run into on that stuff.
So that's a great point, Larry, is that PRV valve is something that folks you really need to pay attention to. Now, Larry, I know you folks out there don't have to buy the pressure gauges and things like that, but some of the telltale signs is your toilets are leaking.
Yeah, actually, you want to look at all. If you have
all those
multiple
kind of
problems, like your
It-
toilet's leaking, your sinks are leaking, if you've got multiple problems, it's an indication your PRV valve is bad.
that's right, and you want to kind of get that thing in the bud, because you're going to be fixing your toilets over and over again. You're not going to understand what's happening.
That
stuff can
symptom
start
I just
blowing
gave
out.
you, where it sounds like a jet. I mean, literally, it sounded like.
Yep.
That's generally not right. Generally not right. So that's how you troubleshoot those things. So what skills have we improved on this year, John?
Yeah, so one of the things I kind of I'm always trying to improve on one thing and then move on from there, try to perfect it. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I try to do something like that. One of the things I kind of always found was kind of a little bit of an art. Okay, is drywall, and that is taping and mudding, and it's always been a little bit of an art. There's always a little bit of science to it, of course, but it's also a bit of an artistic approach to it. And I know it's a mystery to a lot of people out there, but practice makes perfect. And over this past year, I've really, really gotten good at it. And I think that's I kind of really concentrated on that. I don't know why. It was just one of those pet things that in the back of my mind. I was like, I really want to be good at this.
Yeah.
And that's I've done that now, and it's really been pretty satisfying actually to kind of start to master this stuff. It's not hard. It just takes a lot of practice and understanding. Yeah, and how things work. So that was something over this past year that I kind of picked up on really.
What
really
I've
well.
gotten good at this year?
What's that, Larry?
Toilet repair. I know it sounds funny, right? But I'm going to throw this out there. So number one, for whatever reason, I've rebuilt. I don't know how many toilets I've rebuilt this year.
I know you have.
It's been a boatload, right? And we kind of laugh about it because of all the things in the world. But here's one of the things that I want our listeners to understand. There's actually a bunch of newer. I don't want to say it's new technology, but like one thing, John. Wax seals, right? So the old wax seal. Yeah, nope. Are we doing those anymore? Not a chance. So they've got poly seals out there right now. Spend the extra money. Don't even screw with a wax ring anymore. Just if you're replacing a toilet or you're resetting a toilet,
Right.
Take the wax ring and throw it in the trash can. Go buy yourself a poly one that'll cost you anywhere from, I don't know, $7 to $15 maybe. But it's so worth it. I mean, it's beyond worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah, you don't. I mean, what's another $8? Just do it right. And you're not resetting toilets all day long. And if you're going to do something like this, buy the best out there, because those things are such a pain in the rear, man. It's awful. It's just awful.
And we've found it's one of those things that what happens when a wax ring leaks, John, you really don't notice it for how long? Like years.
I didn't notice mine. I mean,
Right.
I think I've told this story. I mean, I really didn't notice mine. All of a sudden, I got a stain that was creeping out from underneath the toilet into the hardwood. And,
And didn't you have a drywall repair on your ceiling because of that as well? Or was that somebody else? That might have been somebody else.
That was another toilet. Over the garage. Yeah. But
so you see, I'm
it wasn't
telling
because
toilet
of that,
repair
but
stories.
those seals underneath there are really awful. Those old wax ones. So Larry, you're exactly right. Those new ones that's the way to go. So if you're going to do it,
do it right. And do the right seals. So if you're going to rebuild your toilet, get the whole kit. Just rebuild the whole toilet, the bolts and all. Don't tighten the bolts down too tight. That's my only caution.
Yeah,
but change out all those black seals. Get rid and make sure you have something to clean your hands with, because that black stuff after a while it turns. I don't know what it's in it, but it makes your hands black and it's tough to get off. And anyway, change all that stuff out. Just rebuild the whole thing. It'll take you a little bit of time, but it's so worth it. And then you're done.
Then you got like a brand new
toilet.
Actually.
You got a brand new toilet. So I mean, we kind of laugh about that, but I've really improved on that. I've gotten really good at it. I mean, I'm fast. I'm efficient. I don't know why, but anyway, what other we've improved on these skills together, John? The code knowledge skills.
Well, I
right?
think that was it. The last thing I was going to bring out, the last thing over this past year, and I think everybody you should take some take some of this to heart too. Is the knowledge of local codes. If you're going to do things yourself, it's not a bad thing to know what the local codes are and do it right. It doesn't take that much more effort to do it right, and it's going to save you a whole lot of problems in the end. And that, I mean, I won't go into all specifics, but from everything from electrical to plumbing, and those are mainly the two big ones. And then of course we know what the codes are for the decks down there.
The decks code.
So you learn the hard way, and from that. But those are the kind of things that, and I will continue to do that. I mean, I'm kind of committed to continue to know those codes.
So to clarify, folks, we're not asking that you become experts on it, but we do want you to understand this stuff is all available online. So if you want to learn about deck codes in your area, you type in deck codes in Cumming, Georgia, and it will take you to the actual websites, and then you can peruse through, and you could just skim read it, but you really will have a much better understanding of what the codes are for your particular project. And it is I chide myself because, as the story goes, I went to add on to my deck, and anyway, the county came and gave me a cease and desist order, and then I got deep into it and found out that I was looking at a $35,000 repair to fix my deck. And I was like, yeah, that dog doesn't hunt. So then for whatever reason, I said, well, where we had this deck, I was like, well, I could put a retaining wall up here. And come to find out that the rules for a retaining wall are radically different than the rules for the deck. And folks, this took me less than a half an hour to figure all this stuff out. And so I'm driving numbers as I drive numbers, and I'm like, well, I can put up a stone retaining wall and put pavers out here for now I'm doing the work myself, granted, but for half the cost of what I can put the deck up for. So there's the no-brainer, right? It was a no-brainer for me. I put the retaining wall in, and I got the additional benefits that, at least in our area, if you have a retaining wall that's 6 feet or less, you don't need a railing on it. In this particular place, we didn't want a railing for visual issues. And so we didn't have, but if you have a deck, if the deck's 2 feet off the ground, you have to have a full railing on it. Well, guess what? Now we don't have the railing, and so most of this is 2 feet off the ground, so it's no big deal, but it drops off to 4 feet in one particular area. Anyway, be that as it may, I learned that the hard way. But I also learned about deck codes, and deck codes were written largely because, John, you said something earlier. We were talking about decks and rotting, and deck codes are very strict because decks fall down and people get killed.
Yeah, I mean, they can be very dangerous, and there's a reason why there's codes,
right?
Okay, and so I would just say that that's why I want to continue to brush up on the code. I know how to do things the right way, but there's things that kind of get away from you too. So, if you're going to start to do a lot of electrical work, so folks, if you're out there and you're going to redo your basement and things like that, really, really get into some of the electrical codes in your area so that when you're running wire and things like that you're doing it the right way.
Right.
Because if you do have an inspector that's going to come in, they're gonna want to see that. So it's just, like Larry said, it's online, that the information's available. And it's just nice to not only do things the right way, but in the correct sequence, and
Yep.
with the correct distances and
Yep.
measurements and all
Yep.
those kind of things. So
Yep. And and as you said, John, they are there for a reason. Mostly, it's to protect you and
That's
your
right.
property. So, and they change all the time too. So understand that they change with technology. They change with materials and things like that.
That's right.
So that's part of the reason. What is not necessarily anymore, or we'd all still be using 2-wire electric, right, John?
right.
Here, hold this toaster while you're washing your hands in the sink.
Right. Yeah, while I'm washing my hair.
So we did want to do our takeaways, lesson learned we've been talking about lessons learned, but what have we learned about podcasting over the year, John? Anything?
Yeah. So, so since we started this, I'll tell you, we do write. We like to keep our podcast very conversational, as you folks can tell. We don't rehearse this, we don't do that, but we do write down some bullet points and things like that. We've learned that over the time we've done this, because we've only had maybe 1 or 2 shows that kind of really have gone, that we have not posted that kind of went off the rail. Um,
And we both
but
laugh. There's one particular show that
yeah,
we
we
did.
both laugh about it. It's just part of the gig. But it's nice to keep yourself on the track, if you will.
Because we got
So
way off the
yeah,
rails.
yeah, we got way off the rails, and a little bit embarrassing that I'm glad we didn't put that one out there. But I think it's really we really like I've come to really enjoy the interaction that we've had with the people out there.
Yeah, very much so.
Keep the comments coming back in. Larry, I know that you take care of the Facebook page more than I do,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of people that are joining up. So folks, join up, ask questions. It's great to have that interaction. It's great to ask each other questions out there. We all kind of share the knowledge base, which has been great.
Yeah, I've actually had some personal phone interaction with one of our listeners, and he called me to ask me about. He was doing a roof repair and he wanted just some feedback. And so I spent come to find out he lives outside of Rochester, New York. So there was a whole lot of commonality there. And in fact, actually, I knew the town the town he lived in was the town right next to where I grew, or it is the town next to where I grew up. And so, we traded a couple of war stories and I gave him some good advice. And he since has moved and done his actual repair, but he sent me a thank you note saying, geez, thanks. Everything you told me was great. So I really like that. Our goal, like I say, we're trying to educate you all and give you some good information so that you go into these projects and you reduce your aggravation level, because so much of it is aggravation. The money's bad enough to lose that. The time is bad enough to lose, but it's that aggravation. Why bring stress into your life when you don't have to? And so it's been one of our goals. I know we've learned that. We really like that. We like the podcasting, and we've learned to do the outlines because we're not going to try not to put out a bad show. We really try not to put out a bad show in any way whatsoever. John, you wrote down bring garbage bags and rags because we can make a mess.
One of the things, that's kind of funny. I put that down because the lessons learned over this past year. Doing this, doing projects at yourself in your home and things like that, you really don't think about this. But when you're in somebody else's house and you got your tool bag and you've got, you're kind of away from your truck and that kind of thing. I've learned that at first I wasn't bringing any bags with me.
Yeah, that's a mistake.
or rag.
Yep.
And I'm like, and I just keep forgetting it. And I know I should, because when we're working, we always make a mess. And it's like, where are you going to put that? And I do not like to put that in the customer's garbage cans or anything else if I can help it. I like to have my own bags there and then my own rags. And that's something now I put in my toolbox. And I'll tell you what, here's a little tip for you folks. A lot of times, even if I don't have the great big garbage bags with me, sometimes those grocery store plastic bags will do. They're not very big, but maybe your mess isn't that big. But I take a little tube, like a piece of like a toilet paper tube or something like that, and I just jam those rags in, or those bags in there.
So you've got them with you.
And I put that whole thing, like a paper towel tube or something in my tool bag.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that way, I just keep digging them out of there. So I always have them, and carry rags. And I always kick myself. I'm like, the other day, I'm like, John, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, you forgot rags, and now your hands are full of silicone and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, what, So, anyways, it's kind of funny. That's one of the things that I learned this last year.
I learned to start carrying. I carry in a very small moving pad. Right, it's small. It's a really small one. I bought it at Harbor Freight actually, but I use that to lay my tools on because I was like, you go to lay your tools down on somebody's nice hardwood floor or on a countertop.
Yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, yep, this little moving pad works. It goes right over my shoulder, and away I go with it in. And so, that actually brings up one of my things is process, right? So, I mean, I'm a process guy. And when I say that, what I mean is I have a process for all the jobs that I do. So one of my processes is when I take my tools, that moving pad goes over my shoulder, right? It's just a part of when I go to the back of the truck to get my tools, that thing goes over my shoulder. It's a process. It makes things run quicker and easier. It's smoother. I know it helps me with a quality of product, right? Because I know I don't have when I walk into a place, I don't have to worry about, oh, sugar pops, man. I don't have my thing to set my tools down on, and so it becomes a process. And I've just I know I've refined my processes through the years. It's like we were talking about toilet repair. I go in to do a toilet now. I know every single tool I need because I've done it so many times this year that it's like I don't have multiple trips to the truck for those because I've got this process down. And that's just something I think I apply it to other areas of my life as well, where I do processes and I do kits also, meaning I have a kit of equipment for a particular job. But to me, that's just a process. It's like I have my toilet changing kit. Believe it or not, it's in a 5-gallon bucket, and it's got everything I need to do that job, and it just sits there because I do it so much. But anyway, be that as it may, creates processes. It's really been helpful for me. That kind of thing. Do you do similar things, John?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've even gotten to the point that if people say, "Here's a particular job that I'd like to have you do," I'm thinking about it. They'll please send me some pictures. I'm looking at it, and in my mind, I'm immediately going, what special tools do I need? And it's going through my mind. And I have a little tub, an empty one, and I'll put all those specialized stuff in there so that when I get there, I got the whole thing, right there, and I'm ready to go instead of me spending time digging through everything right there.
Digging and going back all the time. Going back to the
so
time.
it is
right?
So it is a process of just learning how to do that, learning how to do it efficiently and quickly. So because I just hate standing there digging through everything.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. And then the last one that we're going to do before we wrap it up is cause and effect, right? And inspections, right?
Yep. And I think that's one of the things that we talk about here a lot on this show. And this show is really about, maintenance. We do building stuff here, but, maintenance and taking care of things like that. And it's really looking for, if you have an issue, what caused the issue? And you really have to, sometimes you have to stand back and you really have to think about it and noodle it out, because fixing the issue, fixing this, it might not fix what's really causing it.
Yeah, so, I call that root cause, right?
Yeah.
So you have a symptom, right? Hey, I've got a leak on my roof or on my ceiling. Excuse me. I can fix that leak. I can cover that up. I can do it in multiple different ways. I can cut the drywall out and fix that, or I can put kills over it and paint it. I can fix that symptom, right? But the question is if I don't fix what caused that symptom, where do we end up?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, once again, do it right. So,
and then looking forward as well. So it's also, if I do this today, what happens in the future, right? So this is cause and effect. So if, for example, using that same stain issue, if I just paint this stain over, and what's going to happen in the future? Well,
right. No, exactly. And I think, from everybody out there, that's what when you see something like what Larry's describing, you really need to keep chasing it back to what's causing it.
Yeah.
Whether it's a flickering light, whether it's, a stain, whether it's a problem with a clogged sink. There's all kinds of things that, you investigate everything. You'll be a whole lot happier at the end of the job that you've uncovered the source of the issue.
Yeah. And to use, and sometimes it goes down to behaviors. I'm a huge cause and effect guy anyway, but it goes in every aspect of your life. If you look at if you're at XYZ place today, how did you get there? And why, right? So go backwards. And if you want to get someplace, right, as they say, the Chinese used to say this, the longest trip starts with a single step, but you can anticipate where you're going forward. This is in any project you do, I don't care what it is, you can anticipate where you're going to be. You're going to run into roadblocks along the way, or you're going to run into little bumps and things like that, but you can anticipate it. So look, use cause and effect. Think about it. Inspect what you expect. Look at what you're doing. Understand that if you do this today, we were just talking about it, in a previous show about not doing things, or is good work better than no work at all those kinds of things. And you just it's cause and effect. Life is really just about cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, not to get all philosophical, by the way. This is supposed to be a lighthearted show,
right?
John.
And it's a good point. So everybody kind of take that into account next time you're doing a repair.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up, John. What do we got to say?
Well, it's been a lot of fun this first year doing the podcast. We've had a lot of interaction with people out there. This podcast, I'm not going to give you all the numbers. It's been pretty popular, and we thank everybody out there for listening. Yeah. We really have had a good time doing it, albeit it is part of the job now. It does take a little time to create. It's just Larry and myself doing this, and but we like bringing this kind of information to everybody. So I hope everybody enjoys this, and I also hope that everybody continues to send in all their comments and join our the Facebook page and look forward to next year and bringing you or the next year of this to bring this kind of information to you.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening, because if it's without you, we wouldn't have any reason to do this, and so we really do enjoy doing this. Believe it or not, it is kind of fun. It really helps us clarify what we do for our jobs on a daily basis, and then we just I love the interaction anyway with the people. So it's been fantastic. So please keep it coming, and we hope you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, please just send us an email. Let us know. If you do enjoy it, same thing. Send us know. If they have a topic you'd like to hear more about, send us an email. We've already done one on caulking that came directly from a listener. So we really, really appreciate that. So all of those things can go to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com or join our Facebook group at Handyman Pros. We've got a website. It's handymanprosradioshow.com. Any of those things, there's voice messages. And John, as we always say, right, there's a spaceship landing. What are we going to do?
Well, that's one of the last skills that I've really improved on was taking them apart.
Me too. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and have derived some value from it, here's 4 things you can do. 1, tell your friends about this podcast. 2, hit subscribe on your podcast player. While you're there, leave us a review. 3, subscribe to our newsletter by going to handymanprosradioshow.com and click on the subscribe button. We'll inform you of upcoming events, shows, and give you actionable tips for maintaining your home and property. And 4, send us an email with your questions to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. That's handymanprosradioshow.com. That's our show for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.